Hey guys, welcome to week 15. I hope everyone has had a great semester so far and a good start to the final week. When talking about a BCBA, what a BCBA does, and behavior analysis to somebody who might not be familiar with the science, it can be difficult, I would say, to keep it simple, but without going on a long tangent and keeping it precise to somebody who's not necessarily familiar with the field, I would definitely start off with the term BCBA and what all these letters stand for. So this title stands for Board Certified Behavior Analyst. The B and the C at the beginning basically means that we've been certified by the BACB to practice the science through completing the coursework at a master's degree level and also passing the BCBA exam. So after the B and the C in the title comes the second B, which stands for behavior. When you think about behavior, it can be a little bit more, well, it definitely is more complicated than it sounds. We all behave. There's constant behavior going on, but for a BCBA, the most important part is that we define these behaviors and we look at them as observable and measurable movements of the muscles and the glands in the body. So what's important with this definition of behavior is that we don't assume behavior that we can't see. What I mean by this is that we can't observe, we can't record, and we can't measure things like frustration or sadness or thinking while somebody might say with the child crying, oh, he's sad, or he's hurt. So this is kind of a way of describing the behavior that's going on, but these words we can't necessarily define, we can't observe them because they're covert behaviors, they're happening inside the body of the individual, and we would call them mentalistic. On the other hand, we can observe certain behaviors and measure them, such as sitting, jumping, and throwing, or kicking, things like that, because we can see them within the environment. The behaviors that we want to measure also must be operationalized, meaning we have to define them. So, for example, if we're looking to increase the amount of time a child sits in their seat, we must define the target behavior of sitting, where this sounds extremely self-explanatory. I'm sitting right now. So it might be a little bit more complicated to define the word sitting because we're all just used to, like, it's just sitting, that's what it is. But we really need to make sure we break down behaviors and define them in a way that the observer can take reliable and valid data on this behavior. Which brings me to my next point, that once we have a target behavior and we have a definition for it, we have to think of a data collection system for this behavior. How do we want to collect data on this behavior so that we can display it on a graph and show that the behavior changed due to a specific intervention that was in place? So a data collection is a crucial part of behavior analysis, which aids in the decision-making process about whether or not an intervention is working or what changes need to be made to an intervention. So we finally now get to the A in BCBA, which is analysis. We collect the data, we take baseline data, and then we implement an intervention so that when the intervention is present, after the baseline data has been taken, we can see whether or not there's been a change in behavior due to this intervention when we graph the results of the data. After this, we can visually analyze the graphs and the data for each individual client. And it's important to remember that clients that BCBAs work with all their behavior plans are individualized to this individual client, meaning it's not a one-size-fits-all approach at all. We conduct different assessments, functional analysis to see what the function of the behavior is for each individual child. So if 5 kids in the classroom engage in throwing behavior, there could be 5 different functions of this behavior. We can't say that they all have the same function because it's all the same behavior. Being very brief with this and sticking to the point, there's a lot that you could say about behavior, but within all of this, within what a BCBA does and what BCBA stands for, comes the antecedents and the consequences which come before and after behavior respectively. We have the 3-term contingency where there's a discriminative stimulus present, behavior, and then a consequence that occurs after the behavior, which will either increase the likelihood of the behavior or decrease the likelihood in the behavior because of the past. And you can even go as far to say that there's a 5-term contingency when there's motivating operations at play, when there is which is when there's a level of deprivation, or when there's a conditioned stimulus also at play. So there's a lot of ways in which we can observe behavior in the environment and in what occurs before behavior and what occurs after behavior, and how this will affect behavior for the future. So basically, what it all comes down to is that we all behave, but the purpose of behavior analysis is to figure out through functional analysis and data collection why a specific behavior is occurring and how we will change it to create a socially significant difference. So this can be done in all sorts of ways. There's different interventions that will be used for different children or individuals, and different skills that will be taught. We always want to teach alternative behaviors and really make sure that the interventions that we implement will generalize and stay in place to keep the skills for a long time for the children that have the skills. So in a nutshell, that is behavior analysis and what a BCBA does. I hope you guys had a great semester, and I look forward to seeing some of you guys next semester.